This is the Relevant Podcast.
It's episode 1089, and it's the Relevant Podcast here in Virginia Beach still. I'm your host, Cameron Strang, and just down the road, also in Virginia Beach, Jesse Carey.
Hello, hello.
It's weird. We're not recording together. I'm at his house. He's at his office. In Nashville, artist, producer, mogul, Derek Minor.
What's happening?
And just like here in Virginia Beach, just down the street, they don't want to be together. Downtown Emily Bro.
Hey, y'all.
You know, you could go to a studio. You know, you could just like be in the same room.
Just
You got some studio money?
yeah, no. You can sneak me in the side door.
You know what I'm saying? Nah, I was playing. You know, Emily, you know you always welcome at my studio. Y'all get
Don't tell me that. I'll show up.
Pull up. We're going to record vocals. You'll be on my next album. You know what I'm saying?
My dream come true.
Emily, I like it. Do it. Take him up on it.
Yeah, you should.
Come on. Matter of fact,
Clear my
you know
schedule.
what you need to do? Because I'm actually working on a documentary. No one's supposed to tell nobody, but I tell everybody. Working on a documentary for this album. Emily, come on and come be in the documentary. You feel what I'm saying?
I'm there.
Album release date is August 25th.
Come on.
So finally, praise God, after 10 different mixes and masters and 3 different intros, we are here. We have arrived.
This podcast is coming out on August 1st.
Uh-huh.
So it is 24 days, 3.5 weeks away.
Yes, sir.
Congratulations, man. I cannot
Yeah,
wait for
man.
people to hear it.
I can't wait for y'all to hear it too.
I love how you've done like the listening tour thing, building up to it.
Yeah,
I have a
man.
question, because I know like after we listened in Montana and you heard it on bad speakers and different things, you went back and adjusted some mixed stuff, master
Uh-huh.
stuff. Have you, like the listening tour you did this spring where you were going around to college campuses and stuff and people were like hearing it and you were talking about the stories behind the songs and all that stuff. Did any of that feedback, did you make any changes based on what you experienced on that listening tour this spring? Or is it just you tinkering and nobody's input affect anything? I'm just curious, like.
Oh, absolutely. Nah, honestly, I don't even know if I want to put out a full-length album without doing that again. Because when you think about it, those are the people that are going to listen to the album. Like those are the people they're my stakeholders. So like one of the main things people said was, man, this experience, you should create something like this online for people. That's why I started working on this little documentary visualizer situation. So man, some of the I didn't change the song order, but what would happen is I would listen to stuff on different listening environments and I would hear things that would say, I need to change that, need to change this, need to change that, need to change this. And then you would get certain feedback like, hey, this sounds a little low, or I wish I heard more of the guitar. I wish I heard more of the strings. So when I got back, I literally would take notes mentally and then I'd put them in my phone after the events. And then I went home and I just went through all of the list of all the things and just worked on them.
That's cool, man.
Yeah.
Do you fight the thing of like tinkering, like you're never done, you know, like the project's never done? Like how did you come up with like finish line saying it is done now? Because for me, like, you know, like almost like Kanye, like he'll put an album out and then he'll just keep tinkering on it and it's never finished, you know. Like how did you decide it is now finished?
I set deadlines, but
you just said like regardless, it has
for
to
other
be done.
people. I tell them, hey, but I have a bunch of different meetings coming up, and I was like, yo, start scheduling the meetings, because if you start scheduling the meetings, then I'll start coming to a conclusion of the record, right? So,
right,
yeah,
there you go, man.
Dude,
I'm
that's
excited.
awesome, man. I'm pumped, dude.
It's
Me
really
too.
good. All right. Well, we have a great show in store for you today. Coming up later, we talked to Dr. Russell Moore. We've found the show several times. He's one of the thought leaders we respect a ton. He has a new book out called Losing Our Religion, which looks at kind of how the church has shifted in the last several years. And he has a lot of insights. You don't want to miss that conversation. It's coming up. At the end of the show, we also have a part 2 of the Jesse story.
Oh boy,
hour.
I was not prepared, but
Of course you're not
go.
prepared. That's the whole point. The crowd is prepared, man. After we recorded the last one, we got flooded with more story requests. I'll pick a couple. We'll lob them to you. So I'm telling you, that show, if y'all didn't listen to last Tuesday's show where we ended the show with Jesse telling some of the best stories or the stories you wanted to hear, I'm telling you, I was cry laughing. I was like ugly cry laughing through the whole thing. You need to go listen to it. It was really funny. All right, that's coming up. But stay tuned. Up next, it's Slices. You're listening to Blur. The song is Barbaric. Today's podcast is brought to you in part by Mercy Ships. Globally, 5 billion people lack access to surgical care. In sub-Saharan Africa, there's only one surgeon for every 200,000 people. Mercy Ships provides free, life-transforming surgeries for people who have little to no access to medical care. They help the blind see, straighten twisted limbs, remove deadly tumors, treat cleft conditions, and so much more. With state-of-the-art hospital ships, they provide safe surgery to children and adults living with treatable conditions, and it's completely free of charge. They do all this work with an all-volunteer crew of professionals who donate their time and talents. Surgeons, stewards, nurses, engineers, and more make the world a better place. Your donation today provides free, safe surgeries to people in desperate need of help. All gifts are matched, so please donate today at mercyships.org/relevant. Okay, it's time for
Slices.
What do you have, Jesse?
All right, this one, I thought, people who know me know I'm not a big social media person. Like, in terms of, I look at social media all the time, but I rarely post, you know?
Same.
And look, I'm not casting judgment on anyone who does, but I think everyone's had the suspicions about, especially like couples who post a lot of like happy couple photos, you know, kind of what's really going on there. You know, I feel like a lot of us have run into that impulse. Well, a group called ShotKit actually conducted a survey that shed some light and I think kind of confirmed some suspicions we may have all had. They surveyed 2,000 couples between the ages of 18 to 50. And they were trying to look at correlations between levels of happiness and social media habits. Long story short, the results found that couples who share 3 or more couple selfies per week, 3 or more a week is a very high bar, but 3 or more a week, I guess that counts, you know, for stories and all that kind of stuff, are allegedly 128% unhappier than people who are quite a bit more discreet. Now, there's a lot of speculation on what is behind this trend. I think
What is it?
A lot of people think it's, or the people behind the surveys were suggesting it's trust issues with their partner. And
So they're
just
putting it out
insecurities.
there like he's mine or she's mine.
Exactly.
Because they don't trust that person. Interesting.
Yeah. Or there could be, just different layers of insecurity within the relationship that they feel like if they project a certain degree of confidence and happiness in the relationship, then that will kind of come full circle.
Dude, I mean, it's the same premise of like once a couple does the autumn photo shoot and they post the autumn photo shoot, it's like they are in a rocky situation. Or the couple that does the vow renewal, like they're just like we're gonna renew our vows because they're holding on by a thread. You know what I mean? It's an interesting thing that like we're going to do a public display, public post to try to like show that we're solid because we want to be solid because we're not solid. That's interesting.
It was like the major red flag back in the day was the shared couples
Shared
Facebook
social media.
account.
Oof.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like Bob and Jill Duggar or what? Oh, that I don't want to say Duggar, but Bob and Jill Johnson, where it's just like, you know, it's like it's one long name, like Bob and Jill. It's like Bob got into porn. You know, it's like Jill's not letting him log on the internet. Jill's not letting him have his own account. You know, like it's true. Every time you see that, it's like, what did Bob do? What did Bob do to have to get locked down by Jill? You know.
Yeah, well, it was like the old. I saw someone post like the shared Facebook account was like the real world equivalent of a couple sitting on the same side of a booth at the restaurant. Something ain't right. Something. You know, sit across from each other, talk to it like the PDA. I don't know. It's just all anyway. Now we have a survey to confirm. And look, it's not an indictment on anyone who like shares pictures of them and their significant other. Good on you. No judgment, but. the survey does seem to indicate that there is some correlation, not in 100% of cases, but there is some correlation between that behavior and an unhappiness within a relationship.
I think the insecurity thing is an interesting point. And I do see it playing out because I know I've done it just on my own. Like sometimes I'll share a picture of something and I'm not really happy, but it's like, it's in a way, it's almost like fishing for compliments where it's like, I just want someone to validate me and say like, oh, you look like your life's so cool. You look great, blah, blah, whatever it is. And I think couples can do that where it's like, they are really struggling.
I just want you to know your life looks so cool and you look great. I have
very carefully curated my Instagram account to make everyone think that. I really don't post. So if I do post, it's honestly like, why are you posting this? It's a very random thing. But I feel like I've noticed that with a lot of couples that I know personally, that they post like these really cool, great looking photos. But I'm like, yeah, you guys had a massive fight in front of me last week. So I don't know why you guys are posting this.
Hey, look, social media complicates things because we constantly have to project stuff, or we constantly feel like we need to project stuff, and then sometimes the projection of certain things gives you that reward, like what you said. So, man, look, me and my wife happy. I guess that's why we don't post a whole lot. Like,
you know what your wife looks like.
But the problem is not problem. But what's interesting is I was dating someone and never posted anybody I dated. I haven't. I just didn't. I didn't even cross my mind. And it's been an issue to the people sometimes. Like, what, are you not proud of me, or why are you trying to hide our relationship or whatever? And I'm like, I'm not trying to hide anything. It just didn't even cross my mind. But like, to some people, it like matters that you make public declarations of. But
I feel like I feel like at times that's an insecurity in what we value. You know what I mean? Like, my thing is, why do I gotta post a picture about you? We got each other. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like,
that's my mindset. It's like we're in real life together.
On our anniversary, like for me, it's if it's not forced and if it's natural. Like, I think when your relationship becomes content, it's a problem. That's the thing. When it's like we're creating content for the rest of the world, it's like, well, is our relationship for us or is our relationship for the rest of the world? Right. But if it's just I'm posting something from the overflow of a great experience, like, I'm not saying don't post, right? But
I have a friend who only posts a picture of her and her husband on their anniversary of a year. And I asked her why one time. And part of it is she's like, I don't feel the need to like share my relationship with people online. But she said she specifically does it on her anniversary because she's like, I just want to remind people we are still married and we're fine and happy. Like, don't forget, I'm happily married. Here's your yearly reminder, which I think is funny.
Yeah, I like that idea.
All right, what do you have, Derek?
There's an AI news channel coming. It's called Channel One News. It's not the Channel One News from when you were in school and they put it in your school and made you watch it in the morning. But this is going to be AI generative news, and it's going to be tailor made for whatever kind of news that you want. So obviously, that has some people frustrated.
Like, the newscasters will be AI. The content will be AI.
Everything will be AI generated for you. The newscasters, all that will be AI generated, and it will be tailored to. It'll be personalized. That's the new thing. What we're saying.
Emily and I were talking about the AI Hollywood stuff yesterday because, like, the writer strike and the actor strike. I was reading about this. Like, we've been talking about it. You know, the streaming residuals is a big part of it. They have a new contract coming up, and they're trying to negotiate all that. But what was kind of underreported when everybody went on strike was it was income, you know, and streaming equity, and also AI protection for the industry.
Yep.
Because and I told Emily, if those contracts had come up 2 years ago, they would have figured out the residual thing. But apparently right now, the real sticking point on the negotiations is the AI boundaries, because major studios, in fact, Netflix just posted an AI position, that a $900,000 salary for an AI expert, because studios are doubling down on, okay, I can pay you $500 to be an extra or whatever. Now I have your name, image, and likeness, and I can use AI. I can perpetuate you as a character. Your likeness, your voice, your whatever, for free. I don't have to pay you for future tapings. And so, like, 2 years ago, this wasn't an issue, and the negotiations probably wouldn't even have brought this up. But now AI is so prevalent that it's actually a major sticking point for the actors and stuff for what is the compensation for AI, and for writers, what is the compensation if AI writes it, and how do we keep people employed and stuff, because AI is taking over Hollywood. This channel is crazy. There's gonna be no human newscasters and no human writers. It's all AI. Well, of course, writers and actors and newscasters are striking over this being the future of their industry. You know, so it's kind of interesting to watch that the studios are like full steam ahead with AI replacing human capital.
And I wanna put a pin, because I know some of y'all out there have the idea AI will never replace a real person. And think about all the times we've said technology will never replace something real. Right. And how many times it's actually done it. And keep in consideration right now, what you've seen, which is so baffling as far as AI is concerned, is the worst that AI is going to get. It's not going to get any worse. This is the ground floor. It's only going to get better. So, yes, this is a very real thing that AI actors, AI songwriters, AI music producers will actually, we're thinking 10 years, 5 to 10 years from now, that's a real threat. So this is not just a bunch of rich people trying to get more money. This is an actual real threat for entertainers.
Yeah. James Cameron came out last week saying like, oh, AI can't write a good movie. And it's like, the current version of like AI 1.0 maybe can't, but AI in 2 years can. So it's like, I just thought he kind of had an odd perspective on it. Like, oh, I'm not worried about AI. It's not creative. It's like right now, but like, but then also there's another thing that he's not thinking about.
Like, all right, think about this. All of the movies that have done that were creative and they all bombed in theaters. Nobody really cares. Right. So what's happening is what people are valuing, because technology is in our face all the time. What we're even valuing as good art is changing. What we're valuing as things that we want to pay attention to is changing. So, yes, it may not be able to make a James Cameron film with all of this nuance, but guess what? People may not want that. People may just want that AI generated flipped together thing with characters and their eyes all cockeyed and different stuff. That may be what people actually begin to like if it's in their face long enough, and if no one says, hey, stop, wait a second. So I think he's overlooking that there's also, think about convenience stores. When we buy sodas from convenience stores, they're marked up an extra, 20-ounce soda might be $3-4 at a convenience store. You know that if you went to a grocery store, you would get it cheaper, but you don't do that because of convenience and speed. And that's what AI allows, is the turnaround for movies to be put out faster. And if you have these actors, you just have their AI avatars just readily available. Now you don't have to worry about if they get sick. You don't have to worry about anything. You don't have to think about any of the human element. And it just wipes out the human in general. And I think that we need to protect our human actors and entertainers.
I agree.
Yeah.
All right. Babe, Emily.
There's some sad news for people that were looking to travel to Europe next year. U.S. travelers will need to get a visa to visit Europe. Like, even if you're just going for like a quick weekend.
Dang.
So
they don't like us no more. What's up?
I think.
It's not sad news. It's $8 and you do it online and it's usually approved within minutes.
Unbelievable.
No, I think it said it could take up to 30 days.
Up to 4 days, and that's rarely. Our article that we published said it's usually done in seconds while you're online, but you go get it, and it's good for 3 years.
Filling out the application is easy, but then it could take 4 days to get it, and then in certain circumstances could be 30 days.
Dude,
they should be paying us to come visit.
This is normal other than the EU. I mean, go to Africa, go to the Middle East. You got to get visas. I
don't want no visa to go there either.
But hey, they think about it from their perspective. You applied, you got to submit background checks, your criminal history and all this stuff. They want to make sure they know who's coming into their countries. I get it.
I don't want them to have that information about me.
Too much work. Everything's becoming, back in the day, you just drive around. You know, you could just get on an airplane, just buy a ticket at the counter, just go. Just show up wherever.
Hey, you
good to see
light
you.
up
Thanks
a
for coming.
Marlboro.
Hey, right on the plane. Right on the plane. Guess what? Too much. Everything's
Nobody
too stressful.
cared. You just
Nobody
light up.
cares. Everyone cares.
Everyone cares
I
too much
literally
about
was-
Soups, do
travel.
anything.
This isn't about a plane, but I was telling my son the other day, like when I waited tables at Chili's in college, like I hated having the smoking section. He was like, "The what?" I was like, "Oh yeah, restaurants you
Oh.
could choose whether you wanted to smoke or not
Pretty
smoke."
chill.
And he's like, "But wasn't it the same building, same room?" And I was
Yes.
like, "Yeah, it didn't make sense."
You could be back-to-back booths.
Back-to-back
You could be back-to-back booths at the Chi-Chi's, and it ain't gonna matter.
It doesn't matter.
Non-smoking,
Everything
smoking.
tasted like cigarettes going back in the 90s. You know,
Simpler
Yeah, what
times.
was
That's what I'm saying.
When I don't remember, when did like smoking sections just kind of go away?
It's like 2000s, I think.
Yeah.
The late 90s, 2000s.
Yeah, it's funny. All right, well, that'll do it for Slices. There's more where that came from. Check out relevantmagazine.com every weekday where we're covering a bunch of stuff. All right, stay tuned. Up next, Dr. Russell Moore joins us.
It feels cool with you. Not cool with you. Gotta tell me now. Cool with you. It just cool with you. Cool. You know me like no other. Cool with you. Gotta tell me now. Cool. See me like no other.
You're listening to New Jeans. The song is, you guessed it, Cool With You. Well, today's show is brought to you in part by the new book, God, the Science, the Evidence. We talk a lot about faith, but how often do we talk about science in the same breath? You might be surprised to discover just how deeply the two actually agree. For centuries, science has been used to dismiss the idea of God, but today an intellectual revolution is underway. Modern discoveries in physics, cosmology, and biology are consistently revealing the same truth. Creation isn't an accident. That profound reversal is what engineers Michel-Yves Bolloré and Olivier Bonassi investigate in their international bestseller, God, the Science, the Evidence. This book is a rigorous, evidence-based critique of materialism, inviting you to explore over a dozen scientific, philosophical, and historical domains. It shows that what was once seemed impossible, that science could point to a creator, is now supported by a vast and convergent body of evidence. With over 400,000 copies sold in Europe, this book is sparking a global debate. It's thoughtful, fascinating, and a powerful reminder that reason itself affirms the existence of God. Learn more and find out where you can purchase your copy today by visiting godthesciencetheevidence.com. Our guest today is Dr. Russell Moore. He's a Christian thought leader, preacher, and author of several books, including the latest, Losing Our Religion, an altar call for evangelical America. He sat down with us to break down how the church has shifted over the last several years and how there's still time to change course. Here's our conversation with Dr. Russell Moore.
I'm really excited to talk about your book, Losing Our Religion, which is out now, I believe.
Yes, as of last Tuesday.
How do you feel that it's out there now, that everyone can read it?
You know, I always have a little bit of nervousness because I think, okay, now it's officially done. I can't change anything. So I'll tell you though, the worst part is doing an audiobook for me, because by that point it's too late to add anything or change anything, and then I'm constantly second guessing myself as I read it out loud and thinking, oh, I wish I'd said this instead of that. And so that's a nerve-wracking experience for me.
Well, I don't think you have anything to worry about. The book is great, which is just very impressive because you took on a pretty serious issue. You talked about how the American church has kind of changed a lot over in a lot of years. I think a good place to start would be, when did you start noticing this shift happening?
Well, it's kind of like, I tell people it's kind of like watching an M. Night Shyamalan movie for the second time. Once you kind of know where all the Easter eggs are, and it makes sense by looking for them. He was dead the whole time, kind of a thing. There were all kinds of intuition moments, but a lot of times where I would think, I seem to be the only one who sees this, so it must just be me. But I think a real inflection point would have been in 2010 with the Glenn Beck Restoring Honor rally that happened in Washington, D.C., part of the Tea Party, but it was billed as a religious revival. That wasn't particularly surprising to me. What was surprising is that I had so many evangelical Christians that I knew who were saying, isn't this great? Glenn Beck is preaching the gospel here. And I'm thinking, this isn't the gospel. I mean, whether it's true or false or right or wrong, that's a different story, but it's not the gospel of Jesus Christ. And so that was very much an inflection point for me. And then I think just over the craziness of 2015 on, with so much that we have seen. I mean, between the elections and COVID and the response to the George Floyd murder, it's really been a tumultuous time.
I am glad that you mentioned a point that was before 2015, because I think a lot of people, when we talk about this shift, I think it was most noticeable around that time. But I think it is important to note that it has been happening for longer than we maybe realized. Like you said, when you reflect on it, you see it, but you maybe weren't aware of it at the time. If you could, how would you describe the state of the American evangelical church today?
Tense, demoralized, and fragmenting. And I say that because if you look at, sometimes people will ask me, how many churches do you think are divided right now? And I say, well, they all are, if you fit into that category, churches that are tense and on guard about the possibility of being divided. So that there's this almost adrenal response that comes. It doesn't matter if a snake is in the room or if you're afraid somebody's about to throw a snake into the room. That's a very anxious place to be. And I say fragmenting because there are so many. There have always been different wings of evangelicalism. It's always been a fuzzy term to define. But we're at a moment where it seems that it's not that there's a tribalization happening. That's always happened. It's that those tribes are being reordered around different things. So people who previously thought they were, if not enemies, distant cousins, are now finding they have quite a bit in common. And people who thought they were on the same page are realizing they're not. And that's the state right now, internally. Externally, I think it's a really perilous time, because what the outside world sees of the American church, we would often like to think, well, the outside world hates us because Jesus said they would hate us, and it's because we're proclaiming the gospel and filled with the Spirit and so forth. But that's not where the hostility is coming from. It's not coming at that. It's coming at, instead, the way that we don't live up to that. It's a perilous place.
I feel like that's the point of the book, is not only you addressing this, but you also sort of giving encouragement and hope that we don't have to stay in this place, that we can shift. And I guess I'd like to know, ultimately, what are you hoping we shift toward, or shift back to, maybe?
Well, I think the reason that I wrote the book is because I became really concerned about cynicism. But there's more than one kind of cynicism. There's the kind of cynicism that says, I've seen awful things, I've been disappointed, that means I can't trust anything or anybody, and I go numb. It can also mean, though, well, now I see how the game is played, I need to play it. That's an even worse form of cynicism. So I think the crisis in sort of shaking up and doing away with what we had really ought to remind us, as the Bible tells us, we have no abiding city except for the one that is received by faith and is coming by faith. So I'm hoping that what comes out of this is a new sense of dependence and the sort of spiritual vigor that comes out of that. Because I just see that happening so often, both biblically and in the history of the church, is that you will have change that comes about, but it's because of these seemingly tiny little groups of people who find each other. You know, the Wesley brothers didn't take over the Church of England. Nor did they want to find an alternative to the Church of England. They created something within it that actually ended up changing almost every group of Christians around the world for the better, I think. And we see that over and over again. So I hope it's that kind of moment.
I think that's something that I know I try to hold on to because it is very easy to get cynical and not feel hopeful. But I think it's important to remind myself that we've been here before. Yeah. It just looked a little different.
Yeah, it does. Although I think one of the things we have to remind ourselves, for those who are despairing, we need to remember Jesus will build his church. Gates of hell will not prevail against it. That marches on. But for those who are tempted toward a kind of complacency of saying, well, things always bounce back, they need to remember Jesus promised that, but not specifically to an American church, much less to an American movement. And you can see places where, in Western Europe, for instance, very, very minimal gospel Christian presence there. There are some great things happening, but it's a very different and changed reality. So it almost, whenever anyone talks about revival and we have we need to look for awakening, what I always want to see from that person is this person who really gets how revival works biblically, which is death, destruction, fragmentation, and then rebirth? Or is this somebody who's just sort of saying, well, something will happen. Everything will eventually turn out? Because those are two very different responses.
How do you balance that in your own life?
Well, I find that what's helpful for me is knowing where the default is, because I think that, you know, as Lewis said, the devil doesn't send errors into the world one by one, but two by two on either side of what's good. And I'm not really somebody who's tempted to cynicism very much. Instead, I think what I'm tempted to is what can sometimes feel like the opposite of that, of a kind of nostalgia. And I usually kind of, in my mind, edit out all the bad things eventually, and I don't really remember them. And that can be just as bad or worse than cynicism. And so for a lot of people, we all tend to kind of overcorrect in the wrong direction. My first ministry position, I was concerned that a lot of people around in their church and our community seem to have this really transactional but dead relationship with Christ. Well, I prayed the prayer in Vacation Bible School and so forth. So I preached a sermon series from 1 John on testing the authenticity of your faith. And it was a spectacular disaster. Because afterward, I would have, the people that I was worried about coming through and saying, that was great, leaving. And then the most sensitive, godly people in the congregation coming up and saying, I need to make an appointment with you. There's no way that I'm a Christian. And I thought, I actually did the reverse of what I'm trying to do. And it's because if we don't sort of recognize our own bent to cynicism or happy talk or to introspection or not, then that can, I think, can distort our viewpoint.
You talk about this in your book, and it's something I wanted to talk about more. The way that politics have affected our identity as a church and as Christians. Like it's very hard to find a church that separates those at this point. There are definitely some out there, but so much of politics has found its way in the church. And you talk a lot about this. So I'd like to know, how do we find a balance of being engaged politically without making it our identity, I guess?
Well, for some people, it means more distance than I would have ever prescribed before. In the same way that somebody who's a recovering alcoholic maybe shouldn't go to the restaurant with the bar right next to the table, even though that would be perfectly fine for everybody else. I think in some sense there needs to be a freeing from this, because we've got a couple things going on at the same time. We've got a church that has often confused culture wars and politics with the actual center of the faith, and we also have an outward society in which politics isn't about politics. It's politics is about organizing together as a state to get some things done that are given to the state and to the civic order. And that's not what's happening now, which is why often I'll be having conversations with elected officials who will say, I don't want to do this anymore, because I got into this because I cared about education or national security or whatever the issue is. And now it's all about saying something outrageous so that you can do small donor email fundraising. And that's not what I got into this for. And so you've got an entire society that has tried to make politics something, put a weight on it that it can't bear, to the degree that we don't even have politics at all. I mean, you look at what is in Washington, for instance, over the past several years, what is probably the most unifying and functional event? It would probably be the hearings that happened this week on UAPs, on UFOs. And you had Democrats and Republicans who were actually working together to figure something out. That is so shockingly unusual in not just in our political system, but in our cultural expectation, that the church has to realize that, and to realize that we're pressured to conform, Romans 12, conform to the pattern of this world in ways that are often subconscious to us, that we don't even realize are happening. And I think one of the things that's a test of that is, what are the things that drive your blood pressure up and your pulse up? And for a lot of people, political combat feels like life. It gives you that little jolt, and it gives you that little semblance of meaning and purpose. I'm part of something important. But when that becomes ultimate, it's like every other idol. It's ultimately self-destructive. And I think that's largely what's happened to the church.
How can we, now that we're aware of it, how can we, both individually and as a church, kind of push back against that and make sure that we're not letting it go any further?
Well, I think a great deal of it is just becoming aware of it. I mean, that's the breaking of the spell. It's most dangerous when we're not aware of it at all. So it's kind of like the person who was talking to me one time and was really kind of an anxious, not in a medical sense, but just a naturally anxious, worrying sort of person. And I said, and he started worrying not just about that, but then when he would start doing that, he would worry about it some more. And I mean, that just doesn't work. So I would just say, just step back and realize, okay, I'm doing this again. And that breaks the spell. And so I think if you have people who are saying, okay, this is what has happened to us. We don't want that to happen again. And we're not running to whatever is the opposite or whatever seems to be the opposite of that, which is, there's some people, when they see authority abused, they want no authority, which is just anarchy. And eventually, after the French Revolution, there'll be a Bonaparte in any setting. And so instead, to say, where do we find the equilibrium here? And I think that's a huge step, as well as cultivating right authority, which is why sometimes I'll have young Christians on a college campus or somewhere who will say, what should I do? And I'll usually say, I know this is going to sound like a Sunday school answer, but it's because I think Sunday school was right. Read your Bible and pray. And that is a lot harder than it sounds, because everything's working against it. There's an illusion of self-sufficiency that you can create with technology and with everything else around you. And there's a loss of attention. And it's easy to, even people who are really committed to Christ, but they use the Bible as a tool to go in and hear some verses on this and hear some verses on that, rather than actually inhabiting it, and rather than teaching themselves to stop and to pray. I mean, that is the first step, and it's a huge one.
That was Dr. Russell Moore. Stay tuned. Up next, it's Story Time with Jesse. You're listening to Walter the Producer. The song is Sweet Benita. Well, today's podcast is brought to you in part by the new book, Confessions of a Christian Alcoholic. Author Jonathan Seidel knows firsthand how even believers can get stuck in shame and destructive habits, especially when it comes to one of society's biggest obsessions, alcohol. In Confessions of a Christian Alcoholic, he details his spiral into disordered drinking and shares the 4-step process he eventually used to break free. There's hope for alcoholics who become Christians and for Christians who become alcoholics. Find Confessions of a Christian Alcoholic wherever books are sold. What if you could change a child's life with just $10? Right now, thousands of vulnerable children in East Africa are suffering from jiggers. It's a painful, preventable parasite that burrows into their feet. Soul Hope is the only organization treating it through foot washing, medical care, and durable closed-toed shoes that protect kids long after treatment. $10 may not seem like much in today's world, but when we come together, those small gifts add up to big change. Join the 10 for 10 campaign. $10 protects 10 small toes. Visit soulhope.org/10 to give now. One small gift makes a big difference. Again, that's Soulhope, SOLE, hope.org/TEN. All right. Well, last week we asked you guys for some of your favorite Jesse stories, and then I knew that Jesse hadn't told many of them in the current era of the show. So Derek and Emily haven't heard them. So I thought this would be a fun opportunity to kind of relive some of his old stories and introduce new listeners to the lore that is Jesse Carey's life and experiences. So we just asked you guys on social media, hey, what were some of your favorite stories that you want to hear again? And we were inundated. It is unbelievable how many stories came back that I had forgotten about. All right, I'm going to lob you a couple, Jesse. I'm going to warm you up. Tell them about the unique way you and your friends bought snacks one time at a convenience store.
Well, this was a recurring bit, but my dad went on a business trip or some trip to Florida, and he came back with those little alligator claws it was like an alligator back scratcher.
If you've ever been to a truck stop or a convenience store in Florida, they sell alligator claws. That's what he's talking about.
So we went to the store, and but I mean, it's very lifelike. I mean, it was an alligator claw, but these nasty nails and stuff. but we like put it at the end of a hoodie. So it just looked like somebody had a very and in these parts you don't come across a lot of alligator feet. Sure. So I remember we paid for we were putting stuff onto the register, like, oh, here you go, and then in the hoodie we placed like a $1 bill on the counter with the alligator claw. So then we went back to the store one day and they had pig's feet like in saran wrap, like raw, and pig's feet are very human-like, very flesh-like. And I remember we had a buddy go and pay for a soda. He's like, all right, that's $1.10. He's like, oh, and he pulls it out. He has the pig foot in the hoodie, and we like jammed a corner in between the pig foot toes. And we're like, oh, $1.10, here you go. And like the cash register's just staring because she's not sure if this is just some odd hoof deformity. And they can't really say anything.
Can't say anything.
And it's so fleshy.
Y'all are terrible, bro.
You scarred that person for life.
Dude, every time I'm in a truck stop and I see the alligator claws, I always think that, and I'll do that. I'll put the little hand coming out of my hoodie, and I'll put a $1 in it. And like,
we really jammed that quarter in there. It was, here you go.
Did they pick it out, or like how did they get it?
We had to pay. We had to pay for the purchase.
I'd have been like, you got it. I'm like, don't worry about it. You got it, bro. Don't worry about it. You got it.
Oh, man.
Jesse, people want to hear, they don't know about Joe the Neighbor, and they want to know about Joe the Neighbor. Tell us about Joe the Neighbor.
Well, I haven't seen him in years. His house one day was abandoned, and which was not out of character for him. He told me for a while he was planning on laying low in the Philippines for a couple years. I didn't ask questions. He was accepting disability from the Coast Guard and said it goes quite a long way in certain parts of the Philippines. So, Joe, if you're out there, hope you're doing well, man, under that palm tree like you always dreamed about. It's just he was like, if you guys have seen the movie The Town with Ben Affleck, where they rob banks and stuff, he basically looked like Jeremy Renner's character. So imagine that character, and honestly was pretty much talked just like him. The first time I met him, he was, I know this is a family show, so I'm not going to use the language, but he was talking to me about why he wanted to move to the neighborhood, and he was moved because he didn't want his daughters to be in a school district. Now he is standing there in the street with his 2 young daughters with me, like elementary school. He goes, Jesse, you're not going to believe. They're talking to them about the FN, but he's not saying. He goes, they're talking to them about the FN SEX, and they're effing talking to my effing kids about DURGS in the effing schools, Jesse, in the effing schools.
He's spelling the not bad word.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, we could do a whole podcast, but also there was numerous times where, so he had a dog. It was a little bulldog, and Koopa. His name was Koopa. And I saw animal control like leaving his house one day, and I was like, Joe, what was the story? He goes, Koopa got out again. He goes, it got into Eladia's house. I'm like, in her house? He goes, well, it's not my fault. She had a compost pile in her garden. You're tempting the dog with all kinds of treats in the compost pile. Of course, she leaves the back door open, let the air in. Koopa his dog had gotten out in the neighbor's compost pile and run through her house, leaving a trail of compost. That was the second time that had happened. And that was when the neighbor...
Wasn't he digging a big hole in his front yard?
He was. I forget. One day I woke up and he had dug an enormous hole in the front yard.
The dog or the neighbor?
No, Joe. Again, there's sometimes I just didn't want to ask questions. Another time, he was very excited because a business transaction had gone south, but out of his end of the deal was he got an old dilapidated jet ski on the trailer. According to him, the trailer alone's worth the price, Jesse. The trailer alone is worth the price. It had like this. It looked like it belonged in a jet ski museum, and it had like engine parts literally hanging out. But don't worry. The trailer alone was worth the price of the deal. He was always running little scams. He knew a guy who worked at a bread factory. Again, I didn't ask for too many. You just learn what questions to ask and what questions not.
Sure.
he would show off. He would come to my house, tons of donuts and bags of, like, way more bread than I could eat. I'm like, Joe, man, this is way too much bread. He goes, well, they're cleaning out the bread factory again. Guess who's got a whole car full? And I'm like, what do you mean cleaning out the bread factory? So my friend works at the bread factory, getting rid of a lot of bread. So I got a bunch of bread, man.
Dude,
Again,
they heisted a bread truck. There's no way.
Well, they had to do it a couple times because he showed up to my house on multiple occasions with pastries and bread that they were cleaning out the bread
where
factory.
Joe at? I'm trying to meet Joe, trying to get me a little sourdough situation. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, he had a couple. I could also tell some stories that are not safe for the pod, but he had a strong sense of justice. Joe, he saw a bartender get stiffed one time. At one of the little neighborhood establishments. Again, I heard this from other neighbors who saw him running down Shore Drive throwing shoes at a car. Like he was trying to fight a guy in a car, and was like running down the road throwing shoes at him just so he didn't feel right that the guy stiffed the bar. A good salt of the earth guy. I miss him, and wherever you are, I hope you're doing well. I'm sure he's a survivor. He's doing just fine. Don't you guys worry.
All right, last one real quick. I don't even remember this one. Stetson McElhinney said the summer camp tree incident.
I only vaguely remember this story, but I remember I was helping out with a youth group summer camp, and I can't remember why, but there wasn't like a lot to do, and I was one of the counselors, and I was like, dude, this is so lame. You guys been to youth group summer camps?
Yeah.
They're either really fun or like the lamest thing ever.
Yeah.
So we went out late one night. And I remember we were exploring some old barns on the property, and we found an axe. And for some reason, it just sounded like a good idea to cut down a giant tree in the middle of the night. And I remember and I can't remember what we did. I think we burned it. I think we burned it in a bonfire, or a lot of it. It provided a lot of entertainment. But I remember as we were leaving, the camp people were very, very baffled about who had taken down a gigantic tree right in the middle of the camp that had disappeared overnight. But again, it was just bonfire fuel. Not welcome back to that camp either. So there's a couple camps around here that persona non grata.
All right, well, there's a lot more requests. We'll keep doing this a few more times. There's a lot more stories. The Joe ones, man. I remember there was like 2 years where like Joe stories came up like almost every week. Like,
he's a colorful character, and like I said, I'm sure he's out there somewhere
in the Philippines.
He told me his long-term plans that he planned on just disappearing one day. I think he left quite a bit of unfinished business and maybe some debts behind, and just assumed a new identity. But according to him, he had enough to get by in the Philippines for quite a bit of time.
He's been selling some bread. So
yeah, exactly.
Before we wrap up, I want to thank Dr. Russell Moore for joining us. Make sure to check out his brand new book, Losing Our Religion, an altar call for the evangelical church. Also, make sure to check out the incredible summer issue of Relevant. We've got fascinating conversations with faith leaders like Christine Kane, Judah and Chelsea Smith, artists like Lauren Daigle and Arizona, and a lot more. You can read it for free. Just click the magazine tab over at relevantmagazine.com. Don't miss it. If you're a Relevant Plus subscriber, make sure to check out your enhanced digital version of the magazine. It is beautifully designed with a bunch of extras that you don't get in the free edition. Also, you get unlimited reading ad-free at relevantmagazine.com. You get an ad-free version of this podcast, a weekly subscriber podcast, and other perks. Find out all the info by clicking the Relevant Plus tab at the website. Plans start as low as $2.50 a month, and it's the best way to experience our content. Also, if you like the music on the show, make sure to check out our Spotify playlist. There's one called Heard on the Relevant Podcast. Just search it up. We also have an indie playlist, worship playlist, which is awesome, and hip-hop playlist and other stuff. Just search for Relevant over there on Spotify. Okay, on that note, we'll wrap it. I'm Cameron Strang.
I'm Jesse Carey.
I'm Derek Miner.
I'm Emily Brown.
We will see you on Friday. Have a great week, everyone.
Thanks for listening to the the Relevant Podcast. Check out our features, interviews, and news updates every day at relevantmagazine.com. And make sure to follow Relevant on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for the latest. For more great podcasts, browse the shows on the Relevant Podcast Network, which you can find at our site. And while you're there, don't miss the all-new era of Relevant Magazine. A new issue releases every other month at relevantmagazine.com.
I mean, honestly, we could do a whole podcast.
Relevant Podcast Network.